Oh, hey! I just received the most delightful email from a listener. Apparently, her supervisor cornered her in the conference room and told her she was lucky to be there because non-Chinese hires don't usually last long.
Meow, objection.
Nothing says normal job pressure like racist threats delivered in soundproof rooms, right? Welcome back to I Am The Advocat. I'm LawBooBoo, your favorite feline legal realist. And today we're exploring everyone's favorite workplace fairy tale, the mythical distinction between tough but fair and systematically destroying your will to live. Here's what I love about this topic. Everyone pretends it's complicated. How can you tell the difference? Where's the line? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Spoiler alert, the line isn't blurry at all. They just benefit from your confusion.
The Impossible Standards Institute.
Let's start with everyone's favorite excuse for systematic destruction. This is just how high-performing firms operate.
Story 1. The Capacity Crusher.
I'm assigned to 4 major deals simultaneously, each partner insisting their matter is top priority and needs to be done first. When I asked how to prioritize, they said figure it out and that real lawyers manage multiple urgent deadlines. I'm working 100-hour weeks and I'm still getting told I'm not responsive enough and I lack urgency. I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in 2 months. The classic everything is urgent strategy, because nothing says effective management like making it physically impossible for someone to succeed and then criticizing them for failing. Here's some basic math. There are 168 hours in a week. If you're working 100 of them, that leaves 68 hours for sleeping, eating, commuting, and maintaining basic human functions. That's not a job. That's a humanitarian crisis with a salary. And when they say real lawyers manage multiple urgent deadlines, what they mean is real lawyers sacrifice their health, relationships, and sanity so we don't have to hire adequate staffing. The beautiful irony. If everything is top priority, nothing is top priority. They're not teaching you time management. They're teaching you that your well-being is irrelevant.
Story 2. The Moving Target.
My supervisor assigns projects with impossible deadlines, then changes the scope halfway through without extending the timeline. When I explain I need more time given to the new requirements, she says I'm making excuses and not solution-oriented. Last week she changed a brief's entire legal theory the night before filing, then blamed me when we had to request an extension. The moving goalpost masterclass. This is abuse disguised as agile thinking. Real project management involves clear scope, realistic timelines, and adjustments when parameters change. What you're describing is deliberate sabotage followed by victim blaming. Notice how your reasonable request for more time due to scope changes became making excuses? That's gaslighting 101. She's reframing her poor planning as your deficiency. Here's your first challenge of this episode. Start documenting every scope change and timeline. Not because you're paranoid, but because pattern documentation is the antidote to you should have known gaslighting.
Story 3. The Daily Gauntlet.
Oh, this is just how things work here. In every partner meeting, they interrupt us constantly and ask about details we weren't given access to, then criticize us for being unprepared. Our assignments change daily without notice. You work all weekend on a brief, and then on Monday, they say, we're taking a different approach and make you start all over again. They say that this is learning to think on your feet and how real practice works. But after 6 months of this, I'm starting to think they're just seeing how much humiliation and wasted work I can take before I break. This is just how we operate defense. Because nothing says professional workplace like making systematic failure your daily business model. Let me break this down for you. Real legal practice involves challenging work, for sure, with clear expectations and adequate information. What you're describing is deliberate chaos designed to keep you constantly off balance and feeling inadequate. If this is truly how real practice works, then how do they ever complete anything for actual clients? How do they meet actual deadlines? Funny how the chaos and changes apply only to your work, not theirs. Have you noticed whether partners treat each other this way in meetings? Do they interrupt each other and ask for information they haven't shared? Or does the learning to think on your feet training only flow in one direction?
Segment 2. The erosion process.
Now let's talk about my favorite topic, how workplace abuse operates like water damage. It starts with tiny drops that seem harmless, but somehow, eventually, your entire foundation crumbles. Here's the insidious beauty of workplace abuse. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't start with obvious violations that you can easily identify and report. It starts with boundary testing. Phase 1, the tolerance test. They start small. A comment that makes you uncomfortable but isn't reportable. A request that feels inappropriate but isn't clearly illegal. They're not trying to destroy you yet. They're trying to figure out if you'll push back or if you'll just absorb it.
Story 4. The boundary blur.
My supervisor started asking about my personal life, my relationship status, my family finances, and whether I'm planning to have kids. When I said that I preferred to keep work and personal life separate, she told me I was being standoffish and that successful people are open books. Oh, how delightful. Personal information extraction, because nothing says professional development like the detailed inventory of your reproductive plans and financial situation. Here's the thing about boundaries. People who respect them don't push back when you assert them. They don't make you feel bad for having them. They don't lecture you about how successful people don't need privacy. Phase 2, the normalization lecture. Once they've established you'll tolerate boundary violations, they then start the educational process. Namely, this is how law firms operate. And everyone who makes it here goes through this. You just can't handle the pressure like the others can. They're rewriting your reality. They're convincing you that their dysfunction is your inadequacy.
Story 5. The pressure cooker paradox.
My supervisor assigns me impossible deadlines, then screams at me when I can't meet them. When I asked for more reasonable timelines, she said I lacked urgency and this job isn't for everyone. She always does this when other people can hear, so everyone knows I'm struggling. Aha! Public humiliation described as performance management. Ah, one of my personal favorites. Let me translate this behavior for you. Setting impossible deadlines isn't testing your capabilities. It's creating guaranteed failure. Screaming is not motivational coaching. It's emotional abuse. And doing it publicly isn't transparency. It's designed to isolate you from potential allies. This isn't about your performance. This is about control. She's training you to accept that her emotional dysregulation is your fault. Phase 3. The isolation station. Now here comes the really sophisticated part. They make you feel like you're the only one experiencing problems. Other people don't seem bothered by the behavior, or if they are, they're mysteriously silent about it.
Story 6. The Witness Protection Program.
I know other associates see what happened to me in meetings. The interrupting, the dismissive comments, the eye-rolling when I speak. But when I try to talk about it afterwards, everyone suddenly becomes very busy or changes the subject. I'm starting to think maybe I'm imagining things. The conspiracy of silence. It's not that your colleagues don't see it. It's that they've all done the same math. Speaking up equals career suicide. Staying quiet equals survival. But here's what that calculation leaves you with. You're fighting for your dignity alone while everyone else protects their paychecks. They're not bad people. They're scared people. But scared people don't make reliable allies. So challenge number 2 in this episode. Stop expecting bystanders to save you, because they won't. Not because they don't care, but because they care more about themselves. So plan accordingly.
Segment 3. The Gaslighting Graduate Program.
Let's discuss everyone's favorite advanced degree, the PhD in making you question your own reality. Gaslighting in professional settings is particularly insidious because it's delivered by people with authority, credentials, and institutional backing. When someone in a corner office with a fancy title tells you that your perfectly reasonable response to an unreasonable treatment is the problem, that carries weight.
Story 7. The Sensitivity Seminars.
Every time I express discomfort with how I'm treated, I'm told I'm too sensitive for this environment. My supervisor says successful lawyers need thick skin and that I should consider whether this profession is right for me. And you know what? I'm starting to believe that maybe she's right. The sensitivity accusation, the abuser's favorite deflection technique. Let me decode that for you. When someone tells you you're too sensitive, what they're really saying is, your normal human response to my abnormal behavior is inconvenient for me. Please stop having feelings so I can continue treating you badly without consequences. Pause for thought. Has anyone ever told you you're too sensitive about positive treatment? Or only when you notice mistreatment? Interesting how that works.
Story 8. The Memory Wars.
When I tried to report a partner's behavior, the yelling, the personal attacks, the threats about my future, he told HR that I was catastrophizing and misremembering our interactions. He also told HR that I was struggling with feedback and needed coaching on professional communication. Aha. The classic "that never happened" defense, followed by the equally classic "you are the real problem" counterattack. And this is graduate level gaslighting. Here's what's happening. He's not just denying his behavior, he's reframing it. Suddenly his aggression becomes your oversensitivity. His abuse becomes your inability to handle feedback. His problems become your deficiencies. This is why documentation is so crucial. Abusers rely on ambiguity. They count on your word against theirs in a system that already favors them. But it's hard to gaslight someone who's keeping the receipts. So the document revolution. Start immediately. Every inappropriate comment, every boundary violation, every time someone tells you you're overreacting to something genuinely problematic. Date, time, exact words, witnesses. And it's not because you're planning a lawsuit, although maybe you will need one later, I don't know. And it's also not because HR is going to help you, even though they should. Document it for yourself because your memory will be attacked. And evidence is the antidote to gaslighting.
Story 9. The Isolation Achievement.
Nobody else seems to have problems with the partner I'm struggling with. When I mention issues to other associates, they say things like, "Oh, that's just how she is," or "You'll figure out how to work with her." So I'm starting to think that I'm the one with the problem. And here we go. The "that's just how she is" defense. Translation: we've all accepted that she's abusive, and now it's your turn to accept it too. Here's what nobody's telling you. Other people's tolerance for mistreatment doesn't set the standard for what you should accept. Just because everyone else has lowered their expectations doesn't mean you have to lower yours. And that phrase, "you'll figure out how to work with her," again, it's so insidious. It implies that managing someone else's bad behavior is your responsibility. It's not. Managing their behavior is their own responsibility. Managing your response is yours.
Segment 4. The nervous system never lies.
Mental inventory time, my battle-scarred beauties. Let's do a little diagnostic check on your work environment. Think about your workplace right now. Not the work itself, that can be challenging and stressful in perfectly healthy ways. I'm talking about the environment, the people, and the culture. Take a safety assessment. Do you feel emotionally safe there? Can you express concerns without fear of retaliation? Can you make mistakes without terror? Can you disagree with someone without calculating the political consequences? If you're thinking, well, no workplace is perfect, stop. I'm not asking about perfect. I'm asking about basic human dignity. And what about your physical response? What happens to your body when you think about work? And just take a minute here to sit down, scan through your body, tell me how you feel. Do you get Sunday scaries that feel more like Sunday terrors? Do you actually have any physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, insomnia, anxiety attacks? Your nervous system knows the difference between workplace stress and workplace abuse, even when your brain has been convinced otherwise. Stress makes you tired, for sure. Abuse makes you afraid. Stress affects your work performance, of course. Abuse affects your sense of self. Stress is actually a temporary discomfort with a purpose. Abuse is a permanent damage for someone else's benefit. And here's another test, the calculation test. Are you constantly calculating what to wear so you don't invite comments? What to say so you don't trigger an outburst? How to stand so you look confident but not threatening? Whether to speak up or stay invisible? Now that's not career management, that's survival mode. And survival mode is not a sustainable professional strategy. If you're spending more mental energy managing other people's emotions than doing your actual job, that's abuse.
Segment 5, the documentation revolution.
Okay, so time for some practical magic that could save your career and your sanity. I want you to start documenting everything, and I do mean everything. And I know you think this is tedious because you're already working all hours of the day. But do this one for you. You're lawyers, so you already know about professional evidence collection. So just to run through it, you need the date and time of every incident, the exact location where it occurred, specific words used. Now, not your interpretation, not the general idea, but the actual words. Any witnesses present. The business context. Was this during a meeting in private, in front of clients? And what was your immediate response? Why did you feel it was problematic? Finally, any consequences that followed. Why does this matter? Abuse thrives in ambiguity. When people say things like, that's not what I said, you're misremembering. Oh, that conversation never happened. But you know what? It's remarkably difficult to gaslight someone who has contemporaneous notes. Your documentation isn't paranoia, it's professional self-defense. And in a profession built on evidence and documentation, use what you know. Here's the reality anchor. Documentation serves as a reality anchor for yourself. When someone spends months telling you that your normal responses are abnormal, you do start to doubt your own perceptions. So your notes will remind you that your initial instincts were correct.
Segment 6, Litterbox Wisdom.
This week's Litterbox Wisdom comes in 2 parts. First, replace "am I overreacting" with "what would I tell my bestie?" When something happens at work that makes you uncomfortable, don't ask yourself if you're being too sensitive. Ask yourself, if your bestie told you this exact story, what would you tell them? Would you start telling them they're overreacting? Or would you actually tell them to document everything and start looking for an exit strategy? Second, stop asking, is this normal? Start asking, is this acceptable? Normal and acceptable are not the same thing. Workplace abuse might be common, but that doesn't make it acceptable. Your standards don't have to match everyone else's tolerance for mistreatment.
Closing.
If this episode made you uncomfortable because it felt too familiar, that discomfort is information. Your instincts are working, so trust them. If you recognized yourself in these stories, you're not imagining it, you're not overreacting, you're definitely not too sensitive. You're just a human in what is quite an inhuman system, and your humanity is not the problem. The line between stress and abuse is not blurred at all. Stress serves a purpose and has boundaries. Abuse serves the abuser and recognizes no boundaries. Now here's your homework, because you love homework, before the next episode. I want you to pay attention to Sunday nights. How does your body feel when you think about Monday morning? What happens to your stomach, your sleep, your mood? Because in the next episode, we're diving deep into the slow rot of Sunday night and how dreading your workplace becomes a weekly trauma that's rewiring your nervous system. Send your stories to LawBooBoo at overitclub.com or DM me, I Am The Advocat, on Instagram. And if you've got Sunday night stories, let's hear those. I have a feeling we're going to need them. Now remember, you didn't imagine it, you absorbed it, and there's a difference. This is LawBooBoo reminding you that your nervous system is smarter than their gaslighting and your documentation is stronger than their denials. Your dignity is not negotiable. Trust your gut. It's been trying to save you this whole time.